Meet Ryan and Steve. Same age, 28, same city, same job offer that brought them there, same starting salary down to the dollar. They've got the same amount saved up, $60,000, sitting in the bank after years of grinding through their 20s. Same rent history, same credit score, same everything, except for one thing. Ryan believes in owning. Steve believes in renting and investing the difference. That's it. That's the only variable. And over the next 20 years, that one decision is going to send their financial lives down completely different paths. And by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly which one, and it might not be the one you're expecting. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to follow both of these guys through the next 2 decades of their lives. Every mortgage payment, every rent increase, every repair bill, every stock market dip, and we're going to track exactly where they end up financially when they hit their late 40s. Not in theory, not with vague advice your uncle gives you at Thanksgiving, with actual numbers, actual math, the kind you can run yourself when you're the one standing in front of this decision. So let's set the scene. It's a Saturday morning, and Ryan is walking through a 3-bedroom colonial with his realtor, and he just knows. The light in the kitchen, the backyard big enough for a dog he doesn't have yet, the garage where he can already picture himself tinkering with a project he'll probably never finish. It's $420,000. He puts 20% down, that's $84,000, more than he had saved, so he dips into a small inheritance to close the gap. His monthly mortgage payment comes out to about $2,600. Meanwhile, across town, Steve signs a lease on a 2-bedroom apartment for $2,200 a month, and instead of touching his $60,000, he drops it straight into a low-cost S&P 500 index fund and moves on with his life. Now here's where most people's brains go on autopilot. Ryan's paying down a mortgage, so he's building equity every single month, right? While Steve's rent check just disappears into his landlord's pocket, gone forever. That's the instinct. That's what feels true. But let's actually look at Ryan's first mortgage statement of that $2,600 payment. How much do you think actually goes toward paying down what he owes on the house? Not the whole $2,600, not even close. In year 1, only about $230 of that monthly payment builds actual equity. The rest, over $2,300, is interest, property tax, and insurance. Money that, just like Steve's rent, is gone. It doesn't come back. Ryan isn't building wealth nearly as fast as it feels like he is, and that gap between what it feels like and what the math says is going to come up again and again in this video. Let's jump forward to year 3. Ryan's home has appreciated a bit. Values in his neighborhood are up around 4% a year, so his $420,000 house is now worth roughly $470,000. Factor in the equity he's actually paid down, about $11,000 worth, and his total stake in the house is sitting around $61,000. Steve, on the other hand, has kept investing anything left over after rent, and between market growth and contributions, his portfolio has crossed $58,000, which means after 3 years, these two guys are almost dead even. The result is surprisingly close, and if you were expecting a clear winner already, you're not getting one yet, because this is where it actually gets interesting. Fast forward to year 10. Ryan's mortgage balance has dropped substantially. He's deep into the amortization curve, where more of each payment finally goes toward principal instead of interest, and his home, assuming that same steady 4% appreciation, is now worth around $620,000. Subtract what he still owes, and his equity is sitting at approximately $210,000. Steve's portfolio, meanwhile, benefiting from a full decade of compounding and consistent contributions from the money he never spent on a down payment or a mortgage overpayment, has grown to around $340,000. On paper, Steve is ahead by over $100,000, but hold that thought, because Ryan has had his own version of a decade too, and it hasn't been maintenance-free. There was the water heater that died in year 6, $1,100, gone with zero notice. The roof that needed partial replacement after a bad hail season. The vac system that limped along until it just gave up in the middle of July. None of that shows up in a simple equity calculation, but it absolutely shows up in Ryan's bank account. Year 20. This is the moment we've been building to. Ryan's mortgage, assuming a standard 30-year term, still has a decade left, but his home has appreciated to somewhere around $920,000, and with a chunk of the loan paid down, his equity is now close to $510,000. Steve's portfolio, after 20 years of compounding, sitting untouched and reinvested, has grown to somewhere in the neighborhood of $890,000. So if we're purely talking dollars on a spreadsheet, Steve wins, and he wins by a wide margin. That's the headline number, and if this video ended right here, you'd walk away thinking renting and investing is the obvious move every single time, no exception. exceptions. But here's the however, and it's a big one. That $890,000 number assumes Steve actually did what he said he'd do every single month for 20 straight years. No skipped contributions during a rough year. No panic selling in 2020 or during any of the market's inevitable ugly stretches. No lifestyle creep where the money that was supposed to go into the index fund quietly got redirected into a nicer car or a fancier vacation instead. That kind of discipline is rare. It's the single biggest variable in this entire model, and it's the one number we can't actually plug into a spreadsheet because it depends entirely on the person. Ryan, meanwhile, never had to make that choice every month because his discipline was built into the structure itself. The mortgage payment was due whether he felt motivated or not. There's also the question of mobility. Ryan is now tied to a location, a job market, a set of circumstances that are harder to walk away from if a better opportunity shows up 2 states over. And there's concentration risk to think about too. Ryan's wealth is almost entirely wrapped up in a single asset in a single zip code, while Steve's is spread across the entire market. And on the flip side, Steve's flexibility comes at the cost of feeling like he owns nothing tangible, no walls he can paint the color he wants, no sense of permanence. And for a lot of people, that's not a small thing, it's actually the whole point. So who won? Here's the honest answer, and it's probably not the one you clicked on this video expecting. The winner isn't always the homeowner, and it isn't always the renter either. In this specific model, with these specific assumptions, Steve came out ahead on paper, but changed the appreciation rate by 1%, changed the market's average return by 1%, change how disciplined either of them actually was, and the entire outcome flips. The real difference between Ryan and Steve was never really about who bought and who rented. It was about who consistently did something productive with their money versus who let it sit around waiting for motivation that might never show up. Which brings me to the one tool I actually want you to walk away with, because I promised this wouldn't just be abstract theory. It's called the price to rent ratio, and it's stupidly simple. Take the price of a home you're considering and divide it by the annual rent you'd pay for a similar place. If that number comes out under 15, buying tends to make more financial sense in that market. If it's between 15 and 20, it's genuinely close, kind of like Ryan and Steve at year 3, and the decision comes down to your personal situation more than the math. And if it's above 20, renting and investing, the difference is very likely your stronger financial move. It takes about 30 seconds to calculate for any city you're looking at, and it'll tell you more than almost any hot take you'll see online. Alright, that's the real math on renting versus buying. No fluff, no agenda either way. If this actually helped you think through your own version of this decision, do me a favor and hit subscribe. It genuinely helps this channel more than you think. And before you go, drop a comment and tell me which one you'd choose right now, Ryan's path or Steve's path, assuming you're waiting for interest rates and home prices to somehow drop at the same time. I admire your optimism. I'll see you in the next one.